gentlemen, the Uncutt Podcast.
It's the best intro and podcast. It's your favorite host, the Ace Nick White. I also brought my twin cousin over there.
You are the Ed McMahon to my goddamn Johnny Carson. All day, every day.
Less true. You are the Andy Richter to my Conan O'Brien, and you know it. Oh. Bye, Matt. Rain Man's not here. Want to wish a happy birthday to Mrs. Robbie Cutthroat.
Happy birthday, Lady Rain Man.
Rain Lady, as we call her. I don't know that we've ever called her that, but we're going to start tonight. So, I want to explain to everybody what's happening here. This is a special bonus episode of the Uncut Wrestling Podcast because Nick doesn't know how to schedule sometimes, and he accidentally double booked us this week. So you guys get 2 episodes. That's
Big
how it
fucking
works.
surprise
Matt,
there.
Back. I'm tired of staring at you.
You're welcome.
Look, man, it's what I do. Look, it's not my fault. I'm so good at booking that I sometimes do more work than I have to.
All right. I'll take this from here. All right, here we go.
Matt,
Nick,
yes,
I talked to you off air before our guest jumped into the green room with us. And I said I was going to do this. No matter what, I was going to just do this. Give me some guests. I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me some guests that, the Ace Nick White would want on the show that he doesn't think we could get.
CM Punk.
I mean, ones that are in the fucking realm. All right.
Look,
ones that aren't.
You couldn't get.
Dude, I would Buffalo Soldier. I would Randy Marsh Spooky Ghost. Everywhere. It's ectoplasm. This, that poster, forever unclean at that point.
Braun Strowman.
Okay. Give me a couple more.
Your favorite wrestler, Ryback?
Not even acknowledging that wrestling's Alex Jones.
If we could get, I don't know, some former ECW world champions.
Okay.
That would be cool.
All right.
See, I don't want to go too specific because we already talked about this before we recorded. Because I can say a name right now and I know it's possible.
I mean, it's definitely, most of those names are in the realm, besides for Phillip Brooks. God.
Look, man, I figured Michigan can't be that hard to get in touch with Rhino. And, of course, you can't get me Jimmy Jacobs. Either that or you're just not trying. So,
dude.
If you get me Jimmy Jacobs, this wall is going to be a different shade of white.
Okay, that's fair. By
the way, sorry everybody that I'm live from the bedroom again. My living room is currently under reconstruction. No, it is. We're getting all new recliners tomorrow, so it's going to be badass.
Brought to you by Big Lots.
Brought to me by our other guest this week, JC Crow.
So I will say, I'm going to give a little teaser for some people. I know that Nick in the past has mentioned that we've had some big guests upcoming, and we've had some big guests in the past. If you thought that those were some big guests before, you have literally seen nothing yet with some of the stuff I pulled out of my ass randomly in the last couple of weeks, as Nick can attest to. So stay tuned, I'm going to say for now. And there might be a certain 3-lettered person that's coming on here that is not MJF.
Just June gonna be big, y'all. May is huge. May we're having a ton of fun with. Tonight's gonna be a blast.
July is gonna be a big time.
Gonna be good times. But can't focus on the future. We got to focus on the present and the gift that is our guest tonight. The most humble man in professional wrestling, bar none. Number 1 on the humble list tonight.
Real salt of the earth guy.
Real salt. It's not MJF.
Not MJF.
But it is, in fact, Nick Iggy.
While you may be proficient, Sage, I'm still a con.
Had to have a conversation with Dylan about it. He said yes, bro. This is my house. This is my country. And I ain't running from no one. I know you guys have the ace, Nick White, and 3 other queens.
He was talking about me.
Hell yeah. I forgot, like, watching that package, I used to do that fucking Dean Ambrose little rebound Nigel McGuinness thing, and I called it the Clean Ambrose because I was so fresh and so clean. I did that for a second. Oh, I'm excited watching that.
Dude, TJ Vegas is the absolute fucking man. That's like literally almost every video that gets made. Somebody's like, fuck, I forgot I did half that shit.
Yeah. I'm like, man, I did a crossbodies. I went to the top rope at one point. Woo!
That's dangerous.
Hey, how often do people come on here and don't have their video up?
Never.
Never? oh, man.
I mean, your video.
My video.
AC Mac and MLJ are the only other two.
Well, you know what? Here I am, baby. And I'm just
hey.
It's because I'm so humble and I just know people are going to think I'm very attractive and I don't want to make them feel bad about themselves because they're going to compare themselves to me. And I'm just looking out for the fellow man.
Hey man, I am already I just don't want to be replaced as the most attractive person on this show. So thank you.
No problem. And
I'm
hanging up laundry too, so I'm kind of like walking around.
Hey man,
I'm sorry about that.
Not even the weirdest thing that's happened on this show. It's
perfect. Nope. There were a lot of cum jokes in like the first 2 minutes of the opening.
Again, that's not even the deepest down that.
Not even the deepest. Well, let's top it tonight. No, thank you for having me.
Hey man, I'm glad to have you, dude. I literally, I don't want. I'm not going to put you on blast. I've been messaging you about this on the other Twitter page for like ever, and I was like, I don't know that these are going anywhere. And then you messaged mine. I was like, thank God.
I think I got one message from the other Twitter page, like when I first came back to wrestling, and I was like,
that's what it was.
I ghosted it. I was like, I don't know if I want to do podcasts. Like I ignored it. I'll say it because I had like. I think 2 other ones too, and I'm like,
Oh, dude.
I was like, I don't want to do
it. Mask come off, and I was like, getting him on the fucking podcast.
The luchador man.
I got done popping like a 5-year-old, and then was like, okay, now I got to go get him on the podcast.
I'm so upset that like that footage still hasn't been released.
Dude, I mean, just the like fan cam footage that was on Twitter and other places, like I was like, that's the hottest comeback in the South right now.
Oh, it ruled because like, man, the luchador was getting over. Like, legit, people were really into the luchador, and I'm like, okay, cool. I kind of don't want to kill him off because, like, you know what? Forget about Nick Iggy. Maybe I can have a run as luchador. But you know, I don't need to be wearing a mask.
No.
I don't need to wear those. Even though, like, everyone that does wear a mask and demasks is always ultra attractive. Like, 9 out of 10 times, it's like, why were they wearing the mask?
The 10th being Kane.
The 10th being Kane. Not a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
No.
Terrible looking guy. Bad breath, too. Just kidding. I never met him. You know. I'm sure.
But I get it. Like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero, yourself, like, you know, real salt of the earth human beings. You know, real
salt of the earth human beings.
People that are out here doing the Lord's work like yourself.
You know, I am the salt of the earth because I add flavor to everything.
Just a little pinch.
Just paprika. A pinch. That's all you need. some
a little
garlic
paprika on the
powder.
top, a little Mrs. Dash, just a dash on it.
I'm all about some Mrs. Dash.
Dude, Mrs. Dash is super underrated.
You know
Oh,
what else
shit's
is
good.
super underrated? Nick Iggy.
That's the cue, Dad.
Oh my god! All right, Nick, we're gonna start. I say we're gonna start this thing like we haven't
I
already
know.
been going.
Oh, it's already
But,
going.
first question's always the same. What was the moment Nick Iggy wanted to be a professional wrestler?
I was 24 years old, and dang, I'm trying to think of a really stupid wrestling thing, and I just couldn't think of something at the top of my head. I saw the Spirit Squad get slimed, and I was like, wow, wrestling's cool, and it's a mixture of wrestling and Nickelodeon. I'm in.
May Young's son hand there. You know, that's
The
what drew
hand,
me in.
yes, that's exactly what it was. You guys get it.
Yeah,
It was-
he's got a couple. We're old enough now. His hands probably got a couple little knuckles running around. We don't know.
It was the anonymous GM.
that
That story,
gobbledygooker.
no, for real. I don't think there was like a specific moment. I just knew always growing up, like it was always like, oh, I'm gonna be a wrestler. I like wrestling, loved wrestling. Shawn Michaels, DX, the Hardy Boys, like those were my inspirations to be like, oh, I want to be like these guys. Like wrestling is cool, it's fun, it's something different. So I can't really pinpoint a time that made me say, oh, I want to be a wrestler, because I always remember wanting to be one. But I will say there was a Hardy Boys Leap of Faith VHS, and I watched it with my best friend Cass, and that was the moment where I went from I want to be a professional wrestler to I'm going to be a professional wrestler. Like that's watching that was kind of like kicked me into that next gear. Like, no, I have to do this no matter what. And it went from a want to a need.
As I was looking for a picture for you for the poster, I definitely saw the Hardy Boys. We all wanted to be Jeff Hardy picture.
Yeah.
And took everything in my power not to make that.
You should have. Like that was I think I was in 6th grade in that picture. And that was the longest I had my hair, except for right now that my hair is like past my shoulders. But I literally grew out my hair for like a whole summer and more just so I could be Jeff Hardy for Halloween.
I liked the painted on beard.
Yeah, well, I couldn't grow it at the time, you know. I hadn't hit puberty really, so we had to draw it on.
So mentioning earlier, talking about wanting to become a wrestler. Let's talk about how you ended up finding a wrestling school and training to end up becoming a pro wrestler.
Yeah, I think there was NWA Saul, Showtime. You know, Reno Riggins was running it, Paul Adams, and they had an advertisement for like training school. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, actually, before that, like a year before, I got in contact with Chase Stevens because he was training at the time. And for one reason or another, like that fell through. So I didn't train with Chase Stevens. But like a year, 9 months to a year later, like I contacted NWA Saul, asking about training. Reno was training some people. So I met up with him one time in Nashville. We got lunch. We talked. He asked like what I wanted to do, why I wanted to be a wrestler. Had a good hour-long talk or so. And then the first time I trained was at the Nashville State Fairgrounds. It was me and one other guy. I have no idea who this guy was. I don't know if he ever went back to training or whatnot. But, you know, learning how to bump, hit the ropes a little bit. And we had to do like 100 Hindu squats. And I was not in the best of shape. I was always slim, but never like an athlete. And I remember my legs were killing me for the next week. Like it was hard to walk for the next week because I never had done anything that extreme. And it was just 100 Hindu squats. Now looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's fine. But back then it was like a shock to my system. And the one guy that was there never came back. He did the one training session, then dipped. And so, most of the time I trained at the Stadium Inn, I guess the defunct Stadium Inn. That
Yeah, it's
was,
gone now.
I know, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Probably for the best.
Oh yeah, no. Just I mean, the roach population in the rest of Nashville has expounded by the millions. But
So probably for the best, but it's definitely holds a special place in my heart, being where I trained and had most of my matches in the first year or two of my career. Yeah, and I trained there, and like a lot of wrestlers, they start getting trained by one person. Journeyman Reno Riggins trained me a few times, but then he kind of tossed me off onto Teen Excitement, Drew Haskins. So I got most of my training from Drew Haskins, which was great. Reno was still there from time to time, just watching and throwing in some things. But yeah, I mean, that was my original training was Reno Riggins and Drew Haskins. Then I went on to get trained by Tasha Simone a little bit with Kerry Awful and Wolfie D. Kind of helped us really polish our tag team work, which was awesome. Wolfie D of PG-13.
friend of the show for our second guest, many
Perfect.
moons.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
Love that guy. The video that dropped last week of him giving me the whirly bird, I've probably watched at least 30 times. So,
Which is awesome.
Dude, I should have broken my arm. Every time I watch it, it's just like, okay, how did I not die?
Shoulda, coulda,
So,
woulda.
so talking about Kerry Awful, the first thing that really got you noticed on a bigger scale was, of course, Team IOU, later the Carnies. What was the origins of that tag team? And what are some of your favorite memories of like the early days?
The origins. So I was wrestling in somewhere in Nashville. NWA main event, maybe. I don't know. It was a Thursday show. And I was like one of their guys, like with Mike Porter. That Mike Porter's deal, or was that Cersei's deal?
Yeah, Mike, that was definitely Porter.
Okay.
Yeah, you. I mean, look, it's been 10 years. You definitely look like you were one of Mike Porter's guys.
Yeah. Well, no, because I was living, I was alive and not underage. Anyway,
I mean, really, that wouldn't have stopped him.
You're not wrong. It did not. But
there's our first necrophilia joke, everybody. It took 39 episodes.
I digress about Mike Porter. Yeah, so I was there and I was like a top guy there. And then Kerry Awful came in and it was him and someone else. And I remember leaning over to Diamond Flynn. I think it was Kerry and someone else, and they're talking, giving each other advice, and we're just like, it's the blind leading the blind. Because we knew neither of them knew what they were doing. Or we assumed neither of them knew what they were doing. But then I knew Tasha Simone at the time, and she's like, hey, watch out for Kerry. He's a good kid. And I'm like, okay. And I was only in for like a year at this time. So who am I to watch out for him and be like, let me take you under my wing, So we became friends. It was never like a mentor type thing. It was like, oh, we're friends. Let's give advice to each other. And then we wrestled there a time or two. And then at the classic Stadium Inn, we feuded a little bit. And it was supposed to be a feud between me and Justin Granberry, I believe. It was Justin Granberry, Chris Norte, and Kerry with you, Nick, right?
Yeah, and then Damien joined. Right there near the end, because we were like, if we're gonna do a horseman thing, we got to have a fourth guy.
Yes.
And I think we were pitching for Jablonski, even though he was feuding with Kerry at one point.
So
we'll just have Jablonski fucking swerve everybody and join us.
I would have been cool.
Then we got Damien instead, which was way better for in-ring. I love Mike, but Damien was Damien back then.
Still
me
going
and Damien had history, so it made sense.
Yeah, and he's still killing it as John Wayne Murdoch these days. So proud of that guy. So yeah, it was supposed to be a feud between me and Granberry, but it kind of got twisted. People more intrigued in me and Kerry, so we kind of did our thing. Had that mini feud. And he was like an old hardcore kid, so he would always scream "oh" before the breakdown. So he kind of turned his gimmick into oh. So he'd be like "oh." And I'm like, no, it's I. and we did that duck season, rabbit season type thing, and it was like, oh, I, Hulk Hogan point, you. So yeah, so after we left there and started doing NWA Saul at the Sawmill in Nashville, and they put us together. Like we had just stopped feuding, and the next week we're teaming together, wrestling, right? But different promotion, so it is what it is. And so when we were trying to think of a tag name, that's when we decided to go, well, let's be IOU, just because it made sense, because it kind of put us together, and we were just two random guys put together. I think the first night we were there, we won the tag titles from Plunkett and Tim Ernesto. And like we were just like two random guys, like put together as a tag team. But we made it work. Man, I don't know favorite memories from back then. That's a hard question. Terrible memory. I don't know if it's CTE or whatnot. I've always just had a bad memory. I remember one time we were in like a 6-man tag. Kerry went to give Reed Owens a big knee in the corner, and he just flew right over him. hit the barricade on the outside. That was supposed to be the end of the match. Like we were going to the finish, and like we had to scramble to come up with a finish. That's always going to be a funny story to me. Always going to be hilarious.
So let's talk a little bit, and let's dabble more into that bad memory of yours here. Try to jog a little bit of a bad memory out. Let's talk about, especially through all the miles you've traveled and stuff like that, one of those bad road stories that you can tell. You don't have to say names, but what's one of those terrible road stories ever?
I don't know. I don't know if we have like bad road stories. Like I'm very much like, once it happens, it's kind of like in my head for a week and then it's gone. I don't think I have like a bad road story. Damn. I really wish I had something to pull out for you guys.
Well, let's flip it. Let's give us a really good road story, if that lasts maybe 2 weeks in your mind.
Guys, I got everything is good to me. Like I'm a very positive, and I know this is not good for an interview because you're wanting something juicy. Not really. Something real good. I will say I don't think this is like a bad thing. But we did like a loop. It was from Tennessee down to Florida up to New York, which like was such a long, exhausting trip. And it was me, Kerry, and Kurt Stallion. Like we were trying to find people to hop in the car with us. Kurt had nothing promised to him. He hopped in the car with us. And I think that kind of helped people see like, oh, this guy's willing to hop in a car with anyone. So that kind of helped him. But I remember it was my first time having a pot brownie on the way back from New York after this long weekend. And I just like ate too much, and I'm in the back. And like, well, it was because I'm in the back and I feel like we're going like 1,000 miles an hour. And I'm just like holding on to the seat, just like, and like Kurt's in the front, like hitting like a one-hitter. I'm like, how is he still smoking? And I turned into Seth Rogen at that moment for some reason. So I was just like freaking out, like, oh God, I'm gonna die. Man, I'm trying to think like a bad road story. We've had flat tires before, which is normal. We've never really gotten into any big fights on the road. Maybe a disagreement on matches or some shit, but never like a big argument or a big fight. Like we always got along together.
It's because of this for you is why I'm betting everything's just gone so Millhouse.
No.
Hell yeah.
No one wants to be mad at you, Nick. It's impossible.
No,
Except
man,
for fans who are just jealous.
Yeah, I wish I had like a better story for you guys. I really do. So like here's here's one. So I'm not gonna say the promotion or anything, but we were down in Atlanta, and we went there a few times, and every show they're like, hey, we'll get you next time, money's a little tight. Hey, money's a little tight. And we're like, okay, but like, you're going to get us. He's like, yes, I swear to you, like, I will pay back everything I owe. And I was like, and we're like, okay, as long as you pay us. And then it was like one of their big shows, and he tried doing it again. And Kerry pulled out like a switchblade. And he's like, you're going to walk to the fucking ATM right now. You're going to you're going to get our money for us. We're going to do business, and we're going to come back on the next show and act like everything's good. And he went right to the ATM, got our money, and we were set. There was another time in New York where the dude tried to stiff us, and Kerry pulled out a screwdriver on him, basically did the same thing. Like, it's not our fault you don't have the money. Like, we came on a promised price. Just because you can't pay us, that's not our problem. I don't care if you have to go into debt because of it. Your mistakes are not my mistakes. And I was always just there as like standing behind like scrappy dude, like, yeah, get him, Kerry. Yeah. Just kind of I was never the one to be like, I'm gonna kill this guy. There was another time where it was another show, and like they said they couldn't pay us. I remember like Mickey James was on the show. Not Mickey James, Mickey Knuckles, sorry. Some other Kentucky people, and they just said they couldn't pay us. And again, Kerry made him go to the ATM, get me and him his money. We didn't care about anyone else. Like, we had to get our money. I mean, we wanted everyone to get paid. And then like we just kind of destroyed the building a little bit. I remember I took a fire extinguisher off the wall and just started like spraying everywhere and like walking backwards. I felt like the Joker, like trying to escape, just kind of like, you can't get through the smoke, and then running out. We got hopped in the car, gear still on, drove away. Cops started coming like in the opposite direction, going to the building. So we pulled into a gas station, changed, and sat there for a second before driving back past that way, because we're like, well, what if there's some sort of roadblock or something? We had no idea. So mostly just people trying to rip us off. And I'm glad, because I don't think that's as common these days in wrestling. Like, I feel like people get called out real quickly on that. Like, if it happens once, no. People take advantage of a lot of younger guys coming in for free, not paying them at all, or promising them something. They say, hey, we can't pay you. And the young guys are like, oh, okay, I don't want to burn bridges. So it's okay. Just bring me back next time. But I think so many of us had to deal with that so often that we don't let it happen.
Yeah, that went from 0 to 100 real quick. I'm good with that.
Yeah, good. I just had to kind of. I just kind of had like let the wheels roll a little bit to kind of dig back there and find something that was a little juicy, a little fun.
So you go from Team IOU to the Carnies. You know, the
Yes,
super over tag team. A lot of people said you were the best tag team on the Indies. I'm inclined to agree at that point in time. I think you guys were
best unsigned tag team at one point.
I completely agree. Like, when Ink Express faced you guys and the Hoolies, I was like, we're in the ring with the best two tag teams going right now.
Hell yeah!
And that all went to hell, and that's going to be discussed Thursday. Don't worry.
Perfect.
Because that night when Devin got dropped on JC's head and everything went to hell.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But what was the thought process going into the Carnies, and you know, completely revamping your characters?
Because we were doing Team IOU, just two random guys. Just a little backstory, that way you get the whole Carnies picture. Just two random guys, just teaming. Kerry was doing some show, and he was doing the OOO thing, and people started barking at him. Juicy Jimmy's like, "Oh, you're a dog now." So Kerry just was basically a dog, and Kerry's like, "Hey, come on up to the show." He texted like a group of four of us, like, "Hey guys, they're looking for people." I'm the only one that texted. I got on the show. The other ones didn't. Me and Kerry were like, well, let's find how I can complement your character. If you're a dog trapped in a man's body, what can I be? And I love Disney. I love childish things. And I'm like, well, what if I'm a little boy trapped in a man's body? So I was kind of like Eugene, but not so far pushed. I was just a little boy trapped in a man's body, basically. So we complimented each other that way. Did the IOU thing. Did that for a while. Eventually, it was kind of running its course of like, okay, this is how long can you go where you can put on good matches and be over, but people still aren't going to take you seriously. So we kind of switched that. Kerry became more of like the gargoyle, very inspired by American Horror Story. So Kerry was like doing like a beast gargoyle, and I was like the down south dandy. Like I wore a blazer and always filing my nails. So we did that for a little bit. We're like, well, like let's change the name Team IOU because it doesn't make sense anymore. So everyone, when we were traveling as Team IOU and the boy and his dog, everyone's like, oh, they're just Southern. They're Southern carnies. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to make it. And we're like, damn, everyone's calling us carnies. Like, you know what? If they're going to use it in a negative way, why not turn this around into an advantage? You know what? If you want to call us carnies, guess what? We're fucking carnies. So that's kind of how we turned that into the carnies. Doing the down south dandy and like the gargoyle Kerry Awful. And so we did the Ring of Honor camp. Went in there, same thing. And I think they had high praise for us, and that's one of the best experiences I've ever had. Like the promos we did were some of our best. The matches we worked, John Silver and Alex Reynolds, we're in the Dark Order now. They were the Beaver Boys at the time. Like they had like a show, not like a show, but like the students there that came for the camp. Like they put on a show that day, and we were like the main event of it. And it was sick, awesome match. Honestly, skipping ahead, they just gave us high praise, about the whole weekend, and they're like the best thing they gave us. They're like, hey, if you're the carnies, maybe do like a top hat and maybe like a cane, make it a little more literal. And I'm like, okay, like we could do that. But I was trying not to be like overly gimmicky. I wasn't wild about like being a carnival barker. Like I was like, I just kind of want to be myself more. But we went ahead. I got the top hat. I got the megaphone. I got like the jacket. And that's kind of what started us as like the circus, the carnies. Because Kerry already had the mask. He got like a more gruesome mask to look more like, instead of like Twisty the clown to my Dandy Mott from American Horror Story Freak Show, it was like he was my circus freak. And not that I controlled him, but like I was like the carnival barker that's kind of showing him off, and he's the star attraction, that's kind of how the carny started as like the circus gimmick, basically thanks to Christopher Daniels giving us that advice of doing the top hat and making it a more literal thing.
Whose idea was it to add Trip Cassidy?
I could be wrong, but I don't think it was mine or Kerry's. Like we had known Trip from IWA Mid-South. But we were down at AWE, Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment in Georgia. And me and Kerry were feuding with Murder One and Chip Day. And I think it was Murder One who was booking at the time. I think it was his idea to put Trip with us. And I could be wrong. Because, it could have been Kerry having talks with Murder that I didn't know about, to get Trip with us. But I'm pretty sure it was Murder just booking that. And that's how Trip got added with us. And like, I knew Trip at the time, and like I liked Trip, but like we weren't like as close as we were back then. I was like, yeah, like I had no problem with him being with us. And I'm so glad he was, because like even to this day, he's one of my best friends, and I'll talk to him like once, twice a week at least, and I can't say that about many people that aren't family.
Yeah, for sure.
So watching the intro package, it makes me want to ask you, because the damn thing's just beautiful. Where did the Okada spinning cutter come from?
I think everyone's doing like the Rainmaker and whatnot, or their variation. And I was doing a lot of cutters at the time, and I was just trying to put two and two together. There's not like a
Shit
bigger.
is so silky smooth.
I know it's not a big story to that, but like I was like, yeah, that'll look sick, and I think it does look real sick. And I remember like I was like the only one doing it, and of course, like, does anyone ever create a move? Especially these days, I'm just if someone does one of my moves or something that I think I created, I'm not mad at it. It's wrestling. But back then, I thought it was so sick, and I'm like, yeah, this is creative. And Alan Angels had done it. And this is when he was like just an Atlanta guy, and like no one knew who he was at the time. I was like, he got that from me. No one else has done it. That is my move. I didn't know the guy at the time, and I was like, I don't like him. I don't like this guy one bit. But
So you just went full Sean Hoodrich and assumed you invented everything, or
went full. No, I was like, man, I was pissed at the time. I was like, man, why is he taking my stuff? But then I met him, and like, he's a cool guy. I like Alan a lot. Like, he's very nice guy, great athlete, and it's like, why am I gonna be mad at someone for doing a move? Like, it's so stupid to be mad at that. Like, oh, you threw a punch. Well, I throw a punch. So yeah, I'm mad at you.
how dare you do a lockup? I did that in the first match.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it took some time to realize, wrestling's not so serious. Like, wrestling's fun. Don't make it a chore. Like, don't stress out over these little things like a move. Because we all can do the same move. I'm just gonna do it better.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, yeah, that's my mentality. Just do the move better. And if someone else does it better, then maybe I shouldn't be doing it, and they should be the ones doing it.
So fast forwarding a little bit.
Yes.
The Carnies have still one of the craziest tag team runs I've seen in years. You guys do the little feud between you and Kerry at, I want to say, TWE, maybe it was Action. I know it was in that area. So, like when I had Matt Griffin on, he's like, look, man, it's all in the same area. It's all kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I think it was a little at TWE, down at AEW, like the Scenic City Invitational, like that. And then we just did it at other shows from time to time. Sup Graps, we did like a little tease there as well.
Yeah, I remember that.
So there were a few places that we did it and did teases just on and off from time to time.
So when that was done, was the plan for you to go singles, for just everybody to kind of split up and do their own thing? Was there let me ask it this way. Was there a point where you guys were like, okay, we've been doing the tag team thing, but we're both really fucking good, so maybe we should go do our own thing?
I never had that mindset of like, let's break up and do singles things. Like, we could have singles matches from time to time because they're fun. I enjoy singles matches. But at the time, we were tag team specialists. We were one of the hottest tag teams. And I think Kerry wanted to like elevate me because he's like, oh, I don't know how much I want to wrestle, or like, because he wanted to have a kid and whatnot. So he was trying to kind of build a platform that way. If something happens, like I do have kind of a kickstart. And at that time, we were doing Bizarro Lucha, which Tripp was running, and I was kind of starting to do my singles run there, because Tripp was like, "Oh, I want you to be the champion there." So Kerry's like, "Oh, let's do a breakup storyline, and we can always bring it back, And like the first time he did it was at it was in Evansville, Indiana. I'm
CCW?
PWG, not PG, Proving Ground.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Every name mixes together. I hate it. But it was at the arena in Evansville, Indiana. There's like 45 promotions running out of there now, so I don't even remember what it was. Man, I'm so mad. I'm so mad that I don't remember that now. Anyway, I digress.
I blame the weed brownie in New York personally.
Exactly. It's still hitting me all these years later.
I get it. Some good shit, dude.
So like we had just like lost a match or something, or and like, oh, it was a double dog collar match. It was us versus Adam Slade and cool Tyler Matrix,
Yeah.
I believe, and I could be wrong because again, memory is terrible. And it's like, oh, if we lose, we have to disband as a team. And it's like, oh, we could still do single stuff there, just disband. And then Kerry's like, okay, give me the ripcord cutter. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, because he was booking there too. And I was like, okay. And that kind of kickstarted it. So we did that and we feuded a little bit here and there. Which looking back at it now, probably wasn't the best idea to do it because I think any momentum we had, it kind of killed it. And I know he was trying to like set me up for the future for single stuff as well, but at the same time, if I think people are like, oh, we're not going to book the Carnies anymore because they're not a tag team anymore. So just kind of like stop that there. But then we got booked for, and we did it for a few months, but then we got booked for bar wrestling out in California for like the trios tournament. And we're like, oh, we kind of have to wrap this up sooner than later. And we have to get back as a tag team so we can be in this trios tournament with Trip. So everything we did, we just kind of like had to reverse that, which like it was a weird way to reverse it. Like we had the match and like we're kind of like, oh, we're friends again. Because it all blew off at Scenic City Invitational with Trip as the special guest referee. But yeah, we had to like the breakup might have been longer, but like we had to be a team again. That way we could go into bar wrestling trios tournament as a believable team at that time.
Matt is clearly having technical difficulties.
Boo.
Hey! Blame Michigan Midwest. All right. So with that, talk about the time during COVID, having to take that time off. What was all of that like for you?
It sucked. Like because before COVID, Kerry had his child, so he had taken some time off, and I was doing some single stuff here and there, and I was like, oh, okay, like things were kind of picking up a little bit as a singles wrestler. It's like cool, and like we still had like some tag team bookings, and I feel like we were kind of getting back on track with like teaming again, and then the world shut down, and that sucked. Because like my last match was like March 15th at Bizarre Lucha versus Shaza McKenzie. And everything shut down and no one knew what was going to happen. And then like everyone has their own takes on the pandemic and whatnot and shots and boosters and should we go out, should we not go out, but I believe very heavily in it. Like we should not be going out. We shouldn't be gathering. We shouldn't be doing things. Like let's let it run its course. Like if we protect each other just for a few months, then this will all go away. But it kept spreading and people were going out and like more wrestling shows were happening. Like after of course a period of time, because everything was pretty much shut down completely. But then like shows started running again, and I'm like, now's not the time. Like cases are still very high. There wasn't a vaccine at the time. There was nothing to prevent or save anyone. It was very much risking your life to wrestle. And I was like, I want to wrestle, but I can't wrestle. Not just for me. Like, I wrestle. So obviously I put my body through things, and obviously I don't take care of it and don't care what happens to me if I'm taking stupid bumps every night. But I can't risk catching COVID and bringing it home to my wife. Like there was, especially with how high the case is and how contractable it was. And I worked at a hospital. So like I couldn't catch it somewhere else and then bring it to the hospital around the patients, So it's like, I can't do it. So like a good year and a half or so, I just kind of sat at home and I was like, you know what? maybe I'm not gonna come back to wrestling. And like at some point, GCW did some big show, and we were in the clusterfuck match, and we did, we were in the clusterfuck, and I was like, I got there, and I just had a bad feeling. I was like, I don't know, it might have been like 7 months after my last match. Like, this is not a good idea. I wish I didn't accept this, but at the same time, it's like, no, I wanted to get back to wrestling, and GCW is the hot spot for any wrestling these days. So I'm like, oh yeah, it might be a good opportunity and whatnot. And I was like, oh man. And like, there were so many cases that came out of that after that weekend. So that was kind of like, okay, Nick, go back into hiding again. Went back into hiding. Didn't wrestle for another few months. Then the world didn't, started opening up a little, and numbers kind of went down a little more. And I'm like, okay, maybe. I started going back to training a little bit because I felt a little more comfortable just around a few people, but not a whole show. And I would go do commentary at TWE down in Chattanooga just to kind of get a feel for it. And then around October last year, I was like, okay, I think we could maybe September. But around that time, I'm like, maybe we can get back to wrestling. Like, I feel like, I'm vaccinated. I've got the booster. I feel like there's more protection than there was a year ago or 6 months ago for me, so cases aren't as high. So that's when I talked to Jaden. I was like, hey, I've got this idea for the Luchador. And that's how we ran with it. And like, before that, like, kind of when things shut down, just to kind of keep my mind off things and still wrestling related, I had like a YouTube type thing called Iggy Plus, where I did like mock characters. Like I did Door Horse, which was basically a door, but like War Horse's face paint, and like it was headbanging, and it was just like the door slamming. Manders was going by the Corn Belt Cowboy. So I dressed up as him and had like this long skit, and like it ended with me having like corn on my belt. Like one was a Halloween episode. So it was like candy corn. There was like going to the movie theaters. I had a popcorn belt, and just like silly things. It was like kind of like a sketch comedy show on YouTube, like 5 minutes long. And I had like three little skits every episode. And I did 10, and I was like, they were getting less than 100 views. And I'm like, yeah, it's not worth it. No, like I was like, I need more than that if I'm putting this much time and effort into it. And it might have been because I wasn't traveling as much, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
So like when you're not around being seen every week, people kind of forget you. And that was kind of like a hard struggle to go through. It's like, well, I'm not wrestling. People are forgetting me. People aren't watching this. People don't care. I'm putting my time and energy in this. So it really bummed me out. But I did have one idea that I never did, that I had a luchador, a lucha mask made, because I had an idea for the lucha dork. And it was going to be wrestling Tinder, a match for a match. Kind of like you're trying to match with another wrestler to have a match with, like, oh, our styles match up or something dumb like that. But I had the mask, so I was like, hey, Jaden, what if I came in, did this luchador gimmick for a few weeks, and eventually, get over babyface, rah, 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 do a big heel turn, reveal that Nick Iggy's back. He loved it. He let me run with it. And now I'm back. Now Nick Iggy's doing his thing again.
Dude, and you being back has been crazy. Seeing the stuff that you've done at like KOBK and Galaxy Pro, TWE. There's one thing I got to bring up, though, because it's the greatest heel spot I've ever seen. And I think you already know.
Yes.
You're in the TWE arena. You go get the ladder and the light tube. And you climb up and put the light tube back in the ceiling. I watched it live, and when I tell you, I literally cried laughing.
I am so
Where
glad.
the fuck did that even come from?
Because I am very much grew up on WWF. Didn't watch WCW or anything growing up like that. Not ECW. So like, I love WWF. And like I love Fed hardcore, and everyone's doing death matches these days, light tubes and barbed wire and glass and that. And I'm like, I don't do that. I do Fed hardcore. Give me chairs, give me tables, give me stop signs. We can do that. And I always kind of put that out there because KOBK has some of the guys that do death matches, and like I love watching death matches. I think it's a great art, and I have such a high respect for them, but it's just not my thing. So I'm like, you know what? People would never expect me to use a light tube or do anything deathmatch related. So if I kind of twist it and use the light tube for its purpose and tease it like I'm going to hit someone, that's such a great heel spot. That's such a good spot. And like, it was at KOBK, and I talked to Mose about it, and he loved it. I talked to Jaden, talked to Billy Tipton about it, and like those were the three that were like, yeah, that's the spot. And I'm like, I wish it was a little quicker. Like I tried it before the show, and like it popped right in. It was easy, and of course, you could try anything 100 times and it works, but the time it matters.
Yeah.
But fortunately, it still worked. It just took a little longer.
Dude, it was great. Dude, I've really enjoyed your run since you've been back. And like this, all the humble T-shirt is chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss. Yeah,
Love
like I'm having so much fun on this run because it's so much more me. Like, yes, it's still a gimmick, but I'm getting to be me. I'm not having to be a carnival barker because are you going to believe that there's an actual carnival barker still in the world? When I was the boy trapped in a man's body, do you really think there's a boy trapped in a man's body? And I know wrestling's all about suspension of disbelief, but it's like, you know what? This run, I'm like, let me just have fun. Let me be me, like, not take things super serious and just have a good ass time.
See, the fun thing is our co-host is very much that child in a grown man's body, but not this one.
Not that
the
one.
one that's not here this week.
Yeah. No, he knows. I'm an overgrown 8-year-old. He's no.
It's true. I know.
He's no.
Are you sure it's not this one? Maybe you got two.
You're setting a low bar. Yes, you're setting a very low bar.
Ultimately,
very low.
For there to be someone more immature than me on this show is terrifying.
When we call him Rain Man to pretty much every guest, that ought to tell you something.
Man,
Yeah.
So he's smart.
He is. He'll pull some dude. You'll be doing an interview. And like he'll bring up some random match in like 1992, and you're like, where the fuck did he even know that happened?
Yeah.
So, dude, you send him a cage match profile, and he will fucking memorize that shit.
Wow, that is impressive. That
he'll bring up like he asked I forget, he asked somebody about some random match they had against Marty Jannetty in like 93 or some shit. It was the craziest. I mean,
and they're like, I don't know
about Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, why is that the match you go to?
Robbie, when you listen to this, we love you.
We're sorry. No, we're not.
We're not sorry at all.
Happy birthday, Rain Lady.
Nick, man, it's been an awesome time having you on. Last segment of the show is always the same, dude. Pitch your socials, pitch your upcomings, whatever message you want to send. This is your moment.
The socials. You got Twitter at Nick Iggy _ Nick.
Right. Did we lose Nick Iggy? Well, shit. I know his Twitter is at Nick Iggy _. You should definitely check him out.
Hello.
Hey, he's back.
Hey, we're here
Hey.
again. Sorry about that. Sorry. What did you catch? Did none of that go through?
We caught up to Nick Iggy _ on Twitter, and then
on Twitter, Nick Iggy on Instagram. You got Nick Iggy on Facebook. I got Cash App, money sign Nick Iggy, Venmo, Nick -Iggy. If you just want to send me some money, I got t-shirts. I got this joke book that I released that's hilarious. It's got over 100 independent professional wrestlers in there. That's another bad thing. Like I released that the week that the world shut down.
Of course.
But I made so much money on online sales. But if I was traveling with that, would have made so much more. But what do I have coming up? I'm going to New York for a wedding in 2 weeks. So that's a thing. I'm at 127 every Thursday in Grimsley, Tennessee, which used to be Galaxy Pro. I got some TWE dates lined up. KOBK. Kind of keeping a lower profile while I'm starting to get back into it. But I get busting my ass again soon enough. As long as it's fun.
I don't make requests very often, but as we are the official sponsors of Southern Underground Pro, come on, man.
Bro, I would love to be back there. And if
I'll
you're an
message
official sponsor,
Make a call, Dad.
I'll message Dylan and be like, Dylan, I'll sponsor Nick Iggy as well as the rest of the show if you'll just get me Nick Iggy. Please.
you know what? I think that's probably the best thing you can do for your brand.
And if there's one thing we are, it's hashtag for the brand.
For the brand. And if there's one thing I am, it's hashtag humble.
The humblest man in professional wrestling. Ladies and
Your
gentlemen.
words, not mine.
No. It's
All
me.
here. All the appreciation.
We
Radiant.
believe it in our heart of hearts. Nick, man, it's been awesome having you on.
Guys,
Awesome. Oh my God, it's a Nick Iggy on video.
I'll give you one on video. Got my laundry done, so
Ladies, first one's free. Okay.
first
After
one's
this,
free.
Go straight to the Cash App. Okay.
I gave you too much. I gave you too much. Go to the
There's the
Cash
teaser
App,
shot.
the Venmo, the PayPal. I'll send you some selfies. Give me $10 and I'll send you a selfie.
Hey.
Outstanding.
I think that's pretty good.
Dude, you killed it. I love having you on, man.
I'm glad I got to be here, even though I ghosted you a few months ago.
All good, dude. Had a good
Hey,
time.
I'll call myself out. I'll call myself out. I got no qualms about it.
Dude, loved having you on, man. We're gonna definitely do a part 2 when we're not all half asleep.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right, man. Have a good night,
All right,
brother.
thank you. Love y'all. Be good.
Dude, we got our first necrophilia joke. Our first guy pushing his own Cash App and Venmo.
That's fair.
That was great. I loved it.
The necrophilia. I would have really expected that from Robbie before.
I really thought Robbie was going to be the first, but there we were, just fucking doing it.
Here we are. Dead shit happens.
Dude, just being for the brand. That's how we are.
All day, every day. Hashtag
for the brand. It's our thing now. We're stealing it. He's going to make a lot more money off it than we will. All right. That was a special bonus episode of the Uncut Wrestling Podcast. Tune back in later on this week because we will still have the good brother, my best friend, the Slamerican Nightmare. JC Crow will be on. And by the way, for anyone who celebrates, it's the anniversary of the time me and Matt hung out. So there you go. Yay! Somebody else was there, but nobody remembers.
There was a beer that was spilled that night.
You spilled beer on me, but you bought me a replacement. So that's all that matters.
And
that is why you're my brother.
And that is why we will catch back up on that, physically seeing each other again at the end of June.
At the end of June, when we might, maybe, if you're at Forbidden Door, you want to come see a couple of guys, we'll sign a couple of autographs. We'll definitely have our Cash App and Venmo ready. Because you got to pay Matt the big bucks. I do it for free because I'm a man of the people. But Matt, you got to pay him. He's a superstar.
At this point, you got to
pay for
keep the exfoliation, man.
His skincare routine costs more than your rent.
You have no idea.
It's okay, people. You're poor, but you're still beautiful. Matthew, how many clicks is it, buddy?
Only because it's Rain Lady's birthday. Happy birthday again, Rain Lady. 2 clicks. I'm not doing the arm thing, though. God, I hate you guys.
God, my shoulder fucking popped out.